So we're going to get right to the phones. We've got Dr. Schovanec on, the president of Texas Tech University.
A smiling Dr. Schovanec.
Yeah?
Yeah. I mean, with all the good that's going on at Tech and with sports and all, you got to be smiling, don't you, Dr. Schovanec?
Well, how did you know that, Dave? Good morning. I understand both of you are in the studio this morning.
Yes,
We're
we
here.
are.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
Yeah, Dave got his vaccination, and I've had COVID, and I'll get my vaccination as soon as I'm able to get it. And I think we're both doing well, so it's time.
How are things with you?
Well, as you said, Dave, things are pretty good right now. I saw on our COVID dashboard right now we have one student who has COVID. We have one employee. Think back to the fall and what we went through. We're in a good spot right now.
Yeah,
and,
well, I'll tell you, Dr. Schovanec, we reported this morning in Lubbock County. I think it's a record. I may be wrong, but they only reported 5 new cases and no deaths.
That's wonderful.
It is. I think we're on the way down. Let's hope we continue.
Right now, we're working on a memo that I intend to get out this week, announcing that we anticipate we'll be back to normal operations for the fall. And, there's still some issues we have to deal with. What does it actually mean? Prior to the pandemic, we were teaching about 15 to 20% of our courses online. There's a demand for it. So when we say back to normal, it doesn't mean 100% of the courses are face-to-face, because that was never the situation. But what we mean is for those who want face-to-face, it will be there. The provost told me the other day that for this summer, 80% of the course offerings are face-to-face. So we're moving back in that direction. And I think that's very important that we get that message out as students begin to make a decision on where they're going to go next fall.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Schovanec, Texas Tech made the announcement, I guess, after the governor decided that that he was going to take away the restrictions in the state of Texas. What was the process that y'all had to go through to make the policy for Texas Tech? As far as after the governor released the restrictions as far as mask and whatnot, mandates?
Yeah. First, Matt, we had a meeting of all the components in the system belonging to Chancellor. And the Chancellor issued a memo recommending that for the remainder of the semester, we retain the protocols in the classroom and in-person gatherings. And so we followed up with a similar recommendation. Before we issued our memo, the Student Government Association had met and voted that recommending passing a resolution that we would maintain those policies. And I understand how people would say, why would you do more than the governor really required? But I actually spoke to the leadership of the Student Government Association. It's something they wanted for those in the classroom. Faculty had reached out to me and expressing their concern because most of them were not able to gain access to the vaccine. They were in the classroom. And so we just felt that to minimize any disruptions we would just proceed with our policies that were in place for the remainder of the semester. Now, even prior to this, we had adopted a very liberal policy in terms of allowing student activities to pick up. We would get requests for extracurricular activities, and we were trying to accommodate, those sort of things the students wanted to do. We had already agreed that we were going to allow study abroad this summer. So we were moving to a more open environment. But the main concern was what to do about those in the classroom when somebody might be standing in front of a room of students and they were not able to be vaccinated, and they had a legitimate concern. So that's the reason we did it. It's been very primarily non-eventful.
Yeah. Dr. Schovanec, I was a story in the AJ this morning. It was saying the Texas Higher Education Commissioner Harrison Keller, who took the helm in the fall of 2019, started meeting with state lawmakers and Governor Abbott to push the idea that the next session would be focused on higher education, included in the bill that could overhaul its funding. Then the pandemic hit. So now, instead of the hike in spending, they're hoping for universities are trying to avoid budget cuts while advocating for more resources to serve students, many of whom have been hit hard by this past year. You have some comments on that about where we stand financing-wise?
Well, Dave, we are we are taking a 5% cut in our general revenue. And so it's the same situation we were in the last biennium. It's manageable. Our enrollment growth has helped us to deal with this. I think the state has done a very good job of dealing with the financial challenges we face because of the pandemic. And higher ed shouldn't be immune from the other constraints that other agencies are dealing with. And so, we testified before the Senate Finance Committee 2 weeks ago, House Appropriations. Our priority is to maintain and get the extra funding we needed for the vet school to move forward. We have one exceptional item request. Harrison, as the commissioner, has done a wonderful job. He's from Plainview. He didn't go to school at Tech, but he is a great advocate, and he's wonderful. He's been wonderful to work with. He's trying to advocate for the cause of higher ed. He thinks that we need to be more focused on making sure we're dealing with workforce issues, the value proposition as it relates to credentials. So he's just making a case for higher ed, as we all do. I don't see a dramatic difference in the way higher ed is funded. We know it's going to be tight. If you go back 10 years ago, in 2010, about 40% of our budget came from the state. Right now, it's about it's in the 20s. It's about 19% less. And there's been a compensation in tuition to make up for that difference, but that's nationwide. So Harris's comments have been consistent with what he said for the last few months.
I was going to ask you, as far as the funding goes, and as far as your having the, tuition going up and covering that funding, are you looking at having a lot more people coming next fall? And we've talked a little bit about recruitment, but has recruitment looked as good? I know you're doing it all through video, but is recruitment looking just as good next year as it did this year?
So, Matt, every Friday I get a report from the Vice President for Enrollment Management, and the one I received this weekend said that we're about 4.5% above last year's confirmed registrations for Red Raider orientation. That doesn't mean all those people will show up, but we anticipate we will be up. Applications are way up. We're over 31,000 this year for the first-year class. 2 years ago, we topped out at 24,000. And so we feel good about enrollment. We're trying to manage that. We're not just going to I get occasional notes from Ken Hand saying go for 50. That's not in our immediate plans.
Do you have the infrastructure there at Texas Tech to get up to 50 right now?
Not right now. That's exactly the point. We can still continue to grow. There are some major capital projects on the books, but we'll do this in a controlled way. We'd like to see an increase in graduate enrollment. So our enrollment has been a great aid to us in dealing with the pandemic. We were up about 4% in the fall nationwide. In Publix, it was down 4%. So there's a lot of momentum for Tech right now. I think part of the reason we grew was because we were more open, and we got to get that message out that we're going to be even more normal in the fall, because I think that matters to students, it matters to parents.
Well, and that includes sports. I know that even University of Texas at Austin was talking about having 100% open for their football games already and selling tickets as such. Is that an expectation that Texas Tech has as well?
Yes, Matt. As you know, when we issued the letter about the face coverage and social distancing after the governor's order, we did say that athletics would be announcing some revised policies for this spring. So what Kirby did for baseball is he allowed all season ticket holders to go ahead and renew those tickets, and we anticipated that the capacity there in baseball would be around 75%. We also changed the policy that masks would not be mandatory. It would be a personal choice.
Yeah.
So we're starting to move to that more open environment, and I think it'd be premature to say 100%, but that's what I think it will be.
Okay, Dr. Schovanec, we got to take a break. Can you hold over for one more segment?
Yes, sir, Dave.
Okay, we'll be right back with more with Dr. Lawrence Schovanec, president of Texas Tech, after this.
Welcome back to Mornings with Dave King and Matt Martin. We've got Dr. Schovanec, the president of Texas Tech University. Dr. Schovanec, one thing I was reading yesterday is the people were making predictions on the Big 12 tournament, and surprisingly, I saw the Texas Tech. A lot of people were really big on Texas Tech, thought they were going to at least make the Sweet 16, and one person even said Final Four is coming for Texas Tech. What are your thoughts?
I think that'd be awesome. I saw for some people, there are different opinions, of course.
Uh-huh.
But, this is that time of the year when Chris Beard really shines.
I know.
And
that defense wins championships. That's all I got to say.
And they get hot. We've lost some heartbreakers this year. And so I'm flying up there tomorrow morning for the game. I'm really excited about it. I went to school at Indiana University graduate school, so it's going to be good to go back and see the campus. But
who are you going to root for?
What do you think, Dave? They're not playing Indiana; they're playing on the campus. But,
right.
I mean, if Tech was playing my mother, I'd root for Tech. So it's a no-brainer.
Yeah. So the first game's Utah
understand.
State, and that's Friday at 12:45.
Is that okay? I didn't know it. So we're flying out at 7:30. We're looking forward to it. I'm anticipating being there for the game against Arkansas, and then we'll go back next week for the Sweet 16.
Yeah, and you'll probably stay until they end up out on that one, huh?
No, I'll come back Monday. The flights are a problem. Everybody going into Indiana it's an issue.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, it's an inconvenience that we're happy to endure it.
Yeah, and have you been paying attention to baseball? Man, they just got on a roll. They had a tough first 3 games, and after that, they just haven't stopped.
Somebody sent me a note after they hit those 3 homers back to back, and Chris Cook dug up some information on that. When was the last time that happened? It's happened before, and it wasn't that long ago. He said we did that against Houston Baptist in 2018.
Huh.
But the last time we had a walk-off homer is 2015. I mean, that's the great thing about baseball. You have 3 guys that were, 0 for 11, 6 strikeouts, and they hit homers. It's really wonderful. And track had a good showing at the Big 12 meet, and tennis is doing well as well. So things are, as you said, Dave, at the start of the show, a lot of great things are happening. One thing I wanted to mention before we get off is, we did announce we're going to have in-person commencement at Jones AT&T. And that's from the 14th and 15th. We have 2 ceremonies on Friday and Saturday. We anticipate they'll be 4 hours long, about 4,500 students graduating. But the week prior to that, we've invited everybody back who wasn't able to have an in-person commencement. And there's about 9,000 students on that list. And we don't think they will all show up, but we're going to have ceremonies for them as well. So I think that's great for Lubbock, and a lot of people will be coming into town for those events. And I'm really pleased that we could give those students and those families what they deserved.
Yeah, and y'all are going to do it at the Jones AT&T, so I guess it's an open air event?
Yes.
Yeah.
We're going to have fireworks, but that's supposed to be a secret.
I won't tell anybody.
We won't tell a soul.
But you won't know when. You don't know when it's going to go off.
Dr. Schovanec, bring us up to speed on the vet school.
So Guy Lonergan just called me the other day. They have issued their invitations to the first class. That class will be, they first said about 60. They might go a bit above that. The day he had called me was just a few days after the invitations had been issued, and 45 had already confirmed. So we're going to be starting off this summer.
That's good.
State-of-the-art facility. We are
Yeah.
working with the legislator to get that extra funding.
Dr. Schovanec, we are out of time.
Okay.
We could talk for a lot longer, but thanks for calling in, and it's good to bring us up to speed with what's happening at our favorite university.
I appreciate you guys, and I'm glad you're in the office. I mean, Dave, take care of yourself.
All right.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
a
you,
lot.
Dr.
And
Schovanec.
that closes out a Wednesday edition of Dave and Matt in the Morning. We'll return tomorrow and do it all over again. Have a great day, everyone.